we had responded in that moment and said, oh, we need to pull money out, losses don't become final until you sell. And that's why we say don't sell. Everything is actually at a discount right now. So I think now is the time probably to hold steady, be wise about how you manage your funds and the advisors that you work with, talk to them about it, but it's probably not time to pull out of the market.
Don't sell. Yeah, so if you like a good sale, now's the time.
Right.
Put more money into the market.
Right. Don't stop investing in your 401k. Don't stop investing in your other investment vehicles, because you buy shares now when it's low, and when the market rebounds, those same shares are valued higher. That's where you make money.
Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
The podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you grow and build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Erica Young, and we're so glad you're joining us today.
All right, y'all, let's get into it.
The For Better and Worth podcast is sponsored by American Heritage Credit Union, a not-for-profit credit union that helps you take control of your financial future.
As a member of American Heritage, you're an owner. You'll be charged fewer fees, earn more in the form of dividends on your accounts, and have access to lower rates on loans.
Whether your goal is to save for a down payment on a home, create an emergency fund, or build for the retirement you've always dreamed of, American Heritage has the products, resources, and solutions you need.
After all, American Heritage is for the people, not for profit. So to learn more, go to ahcu.co/for better and worth. Hey babe, how you doing?
I'm good. I am good. I have not watched the news yet today, and that is helping with my mental health. So
Probably good. And I remember there was a time when you never used to like to watch the news, and I would always watch the news just because I like to be informed. And now we choose to we watch the news at one time a day. It's one particular news show. And every time we see that news, it's man, I appreciate they always try and end on a good note.
sure.
Because they'll have some feel-good story or something to just take all this bad that they just laid on you and try and make you feel a little warm, a little good.
It's okay to say what it is. ABC, World News Report with David Muir. You know.
Well, I like that they end with, a feel-good story, because everything before that, especially today, in 2026, it is mayhem.
It is a mess.
It's confusion and fear. It's a lot going on. And it doesn't matter which side of issues you stand on. Everybody, I think, is feeling in a similar fashion. So
you were talking about how I didn't watch the news. And it's true. I think I have to say that I avoided it for a while.
Yeah.
And there were two distinct moments that I remember someone said, you have to do better. One is, I don't even know if this one correlated with someone saying that, but my daughter came home and she was learning things that I didn't know about. And so she was coming home from middle school or her first year in high school with questions about things happening in the news that I was not privy to.
Right.
And then there was this moment just before that where, and no one told me that I needed to watch the news at that point, but this other moment, I was at a business conference and this woman said, not to me directly, but to everyone, they said, it doesn't matter what your stand is, just like you said, you need to be aware and informed of what's happening around you. As a business person, it is probably not wise and irresponsible of you not to know what's really going on in the world. And so that's when, and she said, find some programs that you like and you can tolerate and that it works for you. so that it becomes a habit. And
Yeah.
so that's when I opened myself up. And then when my daughter was coming home asking questions about things that I wasn't aware of, I realized I'm a little late here. Let's get on it. And so, and you already were watching the news, but I was able to find my little, and at the time it was Diane Sawyer, right? Wasn't it?
It might have been, but it's not even just like whatever your news source is, because I read a lot of news articles. I watch, I have news things I go to online, because the work that I'm in, policy changes affects, my workplace and things like that's going to bother you until you.
It is. Go ahead. Just keep going. Keep going.
Barbara Walters, man.
Barbara Walters.
Yeah,
Barbara Walters. Yes, my girl.
Thank you. Some looking.
Yes. So I started with her. Yes.
Yeah.
And then David Muir came on the scene,
But I know right now, we're in the midst of a war and people can have fear around the market because the market has been doing well. The Dow was over 50,000 and now we've seen market drops after the initiation with the war. And I think that can stoke a lot of fear in people when you talk about their investments and their retirements. And we know that if you act out of fear, you'll get like negative outcomes and negative results. So I think now is the time probably to hold steady, be wise about how you manage your funds and the advisors that you work with, talk to them about it, but it's probably not time to pull out of the market.
Don't sell. So here's the thing. Our retirement investment. So typically the biggest thing that people are saving for is retirement. That's where most of your long-term money is going.
Your
so
401k.
Yeah, your 401k, Roth IRAs, wherever you are investing.
IRAs,
all of these things where you're putting those dollars. And it is for the long term. It is not to be messed with until you are getting close to or in retirement. When you're getting close to it, you may want to get more conservative, meaning what it's invested in. But frankly, you should not take money out of that account, period. So even when it's scary and you see your money go down, this is, I think, the perfect time to do something else.
Yeah.
Which is put more money in it.
Yeah, even if we go back to the 91 Gulf War, the market was,
it recovered pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It recovered pretty quickly. Yeah.
Thank you. I had a brain fog for a moment, but the market rebounded, and I know whenever there are times of uncertainty like this, I go back to pivotal points in time that have been during my life. And I tell myself I lived through those. And I know a monumental marker for me was the housing crisis in 2008 when housing was down, the market was down, and it was like everybody was just freaking out. And I always tell myself, hey, we lived through that, we endured. Any monies that we lost, we have more than, I say, doubled since then. And so, but if we had responded in that moment and said, oh, we need to pull money out, losses don't become final until you sell. And that's why we say don't sell. Everything is actually at a discount right now.
Yeah, so if you like a good sale, now's the time.
Right.
Put more money into the market.
Right. Don't stop investing in your 401k. Don't stop investing in your other investment vehicles, because you buy shares now when it's low, and when the market rebounds, those same shares are valued higher. That's where you make money.
So I think about the very first thing when we were investing. So you mentioned the Gulf War in 91. That was years and years ago. And it apparently at that time recovered within a year and was 26% higher than prior to the Gulf War within a year. But I also think about the attack on our country, 9/11.
Yes.
And the markets obviously went crazy. So this was on American soil, and so many lives were affected. And it was an awful, awful tragedy. And of course, nobody was thinking about investing, putting money in the market and things like that. But it recovered 2 months later, and it was an awful time. So if you change and maneuver and go more conservative, you make those losses permanent.
Right.
You know, and another thing is the Iraqi war. You know, again, within a year, it was 30% higher than prior to the war. And so if history can tell us something, is that there are moments where it will be a dip. The market will go down because you're not guaranteed that it's going to always go up. I think our ideal...
We have this misperception.
Yes, like we're like, okay, we're going to invest and we're just going to see our money go up. You know, and it's like... Right. It is, when you look at it, it goes up and down.
Yes.
The average of the S&P 500 is 11%. And if you talk to any good financial advisor who is worth their weight, they're probably going to say, don't expect more than 7, 8, 9% return.
8% is the expected rate of return.
Yes, they say that. And what it means is it's doing like this, it is going up, but it's up and down on an upward trajectory that is not super fast.
It's the balance of the highs and the lows over the course of time that gives you your rate of return. And so it's like moments like this when the market drops. Now you can't put your head in the sand and not pay attention to it. You do have to look at it. And like you said earlier, depending upon at what phase you're at, you should start adjusting your strategy as you age, as you get older, to go from when you're young, you should be fairly aggressive in your investment pursuits. But as you age and get older and approach retirement, you should be dialing that down and becoming more and more conservative, because now you're not in accumulation mode, you're in preservation mode. When you're young, you're just trying to accumulate. So you want to be aggressive so you can grow your investment. But as you, like I said, get closer to retirement, now you're in conservation mode where you want to maintain that base, that core of your investment so you can pull from that over the course of time. And so I say be aware of what phase you're at, because that will tell you what you need to do. But even then, now when the market is significantly down, that's not the time to wholesale shift your strategy. And if you're approaching one of those milestones, I say let the market rebound, then maybe adjust your investment strategy a bit while you're up.
So when you were describing, think about what phase you're in, and as you approach your retirement, you can potentially get more conservative. Now, most of the time in our workplaces and in brokerage houses, they actually have age-based funds, right? And even our kids are in age-based funds. Now, they might be 40 years away from retirement, but
it's an auto adjust. It
adjusts as you age, right? And so you don't actually have to do the rebalancing. So here's what I actually told, not everybody has that, but if you do, just know that makes it easier for everybody.
And I have that with my 401k, but we have some IRAs that we've kind of matched to do something similar. So
yes. So here's the thing that I tell people to do right now in this moment, because 2025 was amazing for the market. We have to be honest.
Market did great.
We have to be honest. But what I say is look at the history of what your mutual funds are invested in. So you need to, and this is pretty technical, we are not investment advisors. However, this should help you. Look at the history. Just look at the history of what your money is invested in. How has it performed over the course of time? How has it performed over the last 5 years, last 10 years? Because the last couple months have been crazy, right? Last year was really, really up, and it's not characteristic about every single year. So you want to look at a longer span of time to see, is it still performing?
Look beyond 1 year.
I did this with somebody recently just so I could teach her how to look for the right things. And this particular month, her investments were 1%, something, because it was just ridiculous. The market is just so wild right now. But we looked at the history, and her history was like 15% return on her money. And so I was like, you're doing great. You're fine. Do not freak out. Matter of fact, make sure if you can, put more money in it, you know?
I think that also gives people solace because they know that the truth is there.
Yeah.
Because history, you can look back and see historically what investments have done, and that can ease the tensions or the anxiety or uneasiness that people may have, because you have to pay attention to the noise that you hear, but you can't be moved by that noise, because that's what I always hope is that people don't allow fear or the distractions that are out there to cause them to make decisions or changes that'll have longer term impacts. Because if you say, man, the market is down, I don't want to lose any more money, and then you wipe those losses, you take those losses and you shift, now you're setting yourself back, opposed to allowing the market time to rebalance and gain some of those losses back. Plus, you can have some increases. And now we're not saying these things are all guaranteed, because they're not. There's volatility that is based in the market, but you have to have some comfort in historical points of view and perspective. And even that's why we go back to those points. Like we talked about the 91 Gulf War, the 2003 Iraq War, the 2008 housing crash, the 2011 9/11. That was 2001.
2001, 9/11, yes.
Man, that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but all of those things happen, and we can use those as points to inform.
Yeah, inform that a rebound is coming. So here's my question for you, because you're the one in our house who's you look at our investments more than I do. Have you ever been tempted to make a change? So make a change in what we're investing in because of what you saw, or moving money, or pulling money out? Have you ever been tempted?
2008 was tempting.
Okay.
But we were down so much that I was like, I'm not taking this L.
Okay.
I'm not taking these losses. So I got to ride it out. It's like, it's the point of no return, when if it had been earlier, maybe I would have shifted, but we were beyond the point of no return, where we've expended enough that it costs us more to go back than it does to just ride it out and go forward. And so I said, no, I'm just going to have to ride it out. And whatever it's going to be at this point. And we rebounded.
Yeah.
And so I think what that taught me was to have a level of tolerance for the market and let the market do what it does, because we know there's not been 7 to 10 year periods in the market where it hasn't shown a gain or it hasn't improved. So I say, okay, let me just give it time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I continue to go back to say, I'm glad you brought those age-based funds to bear as well, because that's an auto balance, auto correction based upon how close you're getting to retirement. Because I always think about retirement and people are thinking about it earlier and earlier. And so whatever that nest egg is that you have, you need to have that and have the ability to live off of that people are living longer. And, if you talk about retiring and you still gonna live 20 years, you need to have those funds available.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think that I'll be very transparent. To be honest.
Was there a period for you like that?
No, I'm going to say that I was not tempted, but in the very beginning, when we were buying our house, we did cash out a 401k, or where we did a hardship withdrawal. And we pulled, it wasn't a lot of money.
I don't even know if it was.
It was. I remember.
What I remember is,
We didn't fully cash it out. We took, I think, because let's be honest. I'm gonna put some numbers out here.
We didn't have much.
We didn't have much. We were buying a house, and we had only been working at our respective places for over a year, and we were trying to close on this house. And I do think, I'm gonna just say this, I think that we were getting into a house too early. This is what this tells me. When I'm looking back on it, we were getting into this house too early because we didn't have all of the cash needed without pulling out from our 401k. So we did a hardship withdrawal where we didn't have to pay it back in a loan, but we took the taxes and the penalty. I promise you, it was less than $2,000. Like, it was not a lot of money.
We were just trying to close the gap.
We were trying to close the gap and get into this house. And so I won't say I have regrets, but I do think that I would do it differently, which frankly, if we had waited one more year, we could have probably had all the stuff that we needed and had no issues.
You know what I'm thinking about? When we got married, because when I was in college, I worked for FedEx.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I had a little retirement or something that they paid me that I could have transferred from FedEx for my retirement. Let's call it retirement. Yes. To an investment account. And we were like, man, this is like, we were just starting out. We didn't have a lot of money. And I think it was like $2,000-$3,000. We were like, you know what, we need this money right now because we just moved, we're setting up. And we took the hit and we like just absorbed that into, our funds that we needed to get established when we were starting out. So,
and I think it's very common to do that. I think the point in this is, now this happens to a lot of people where they forget that they have something at a different company.
Yeah.
And then they see it as free money. Like, oh, what should I do with this? Roll it over.
Roll it over. That's not free money.
Do not pull monies out of your 401k. Do not do that.
Yeah.
It's not beneficial. Especially if it's bigger numbers.
I think as we were moving along, I've worked for several companies over the years, and every time I left a place, I already knew. We already had an IRA like dump fund. So I was like, well, no, move that money from here to here. And we were already like working it in the background to ensure that whatever investments we had contributed. And typically, I'd already met my my vesting schedule. So the companies, monies that they put in, they were coming with us. And so we were always like, put this in this IRA. And it just became a dump fund for us. And so after that first year, we were like, we're not doing this again. I don't care what the amounts are.
So you're saying dump fund, and I just want to clarify. This is a traditional IRA
yes.
that is managed by an investment firm. And it basically is still pre-tax dollars. And so it has to go somewhere. So sometimes you'll have two options. You could put it in an account like that, a traditional IRA outside of the company.
Or you can roll it to
the new company where you're at. And invest it, in the funds that you have there.
We've always opted to roll it to our traditional IRA.
Yep.
Because we're the owners of it and we can determine how it's invested, and then when I went to a new company, just invest in that 401k and contribute there and build there. So we've had those growing in unison. So
the reason why we go to a separate investment firm with our traditional IRA is because you actually have thousands upon thousands of different
options,
mutual funds to choose from. And when you're at a company, you probably have 20, you know what I mean? You have a very limited amount. So, and typically they'll pick decent ones for you.
Right.
I have not seen where 401ks are obscenely low in terms of their offerings and their returns on the money. But this is why we moved it, because we actually have flexibility, for instance, in what we're investing in, because there's so much more to choose from. Like literally at the time, like I'm going to guess, I'm going to put it out here. I think I need to look this up. There were like 10,000 different mutual funds that you could invest in, whereas the company has 20 to choose from.
It gave us diversity because if you roll it to the company, and there's only 20 funds to choose from that the company has authorized, you're putting the stake in those 20 companies and in the company you're working for, which I would hope you believe in them because you're working for them. But when you roll it into an IRA, traditional IRA, I mean, you have all of these options, and we can, move and shift and do things in that. And I think it's worked out. It's worked out for us because that account has traditionally just continued to grow because that's not something that we actively invest back into.
Right. You can't put money, you can't deposit on a regular basis into a traditional IRA where it's all rolled over funds.
And that's why I call it the dump fund.
Yes,
because all you can do is dump money into it and let it grow.
Yeah.
And so we've done that, I don't know, at least two or three different,
well, you have yours and I have mine, right? We each have our own from past.
Because you went from working at, Motorola, and then you went and you became self-employed. So you dumped it in once. I went from one company to the next and dumped it. And I went from that company to another one and dumped it. I went from that company to another one and dumped it.
Yep.
And so in 20 years, I've done that at least 3 times or so.
And I think for some folks, it gets, a lot of people don't know what to do with their money because they have money in different places. They might have past accounts at, companies. They don't have a financial advisor, or they have a current 401k and they've never talked with someone there. They might, you can have a Roth IRA separate from the company. Yeah. You might have a lot of different accounts. And here's what I would recommend you do. If you are concerned about the market right now because we're in a war, we don't know how long this is gonna go, talk to somebody. I would say call your plan administrator. If you have a financial advisor, set up an appointment. I think that when we get in our own heads about things and we're not getting
good
professional
counsel,
good counsel, professional counsel, then we can make decisions.
We make poor decisions
that are not great. Yeah. And so my recommendation is just go talk to somebody because they will know better than you because this is what they do all day. This is what they've been trained to do. Just because we know a little something doesn't mean that it gives us license to go make these decisions concerning our future. We need to talk to professionals.
I remember we meet with our financial advisor once or twice a year easily. And in our retirement plan, we had like a $350 a month pension I had from a previous employer. And I was like, hey, that's like grocery money every month, $350.
That's not for the whole month, baby.
Well, I know.
That's probably for 2 weeks.
But I was waiting for them to offer me a buyout. And they came along and they offered me a buyout, told me what it was, and I was like, cool. So where do you think that money went? Into the dump fund it went into the traditional IRA and went in there, and it was invested in the things we had designated. And so that's another thing is that you have to be intentional about this because I was talking to a coworker recently. They said they had a pension from another company they worked for. It was like $120,000. I was like, well, why isn't that in a dump fund? And she actually cashed it out and spent the money. I was like, whoa, big fella. But hey.
So in my mind, the engineering mind in me, as well as the money mind in me, I'm thinking I would immediately want to go look at what could that $120,000 grow to over time. Because I am instantly triggered by that. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm thinking
120, that's a lot of money.
20 years from now, 120.
Lump sum investment.
Oh my gosh. And so I'm just thinking, if you're getting 8, 10, 12% per year.
Look, you're about to pull the calculator out right
now.
I already know how you work, and you're already thinking like, I need to know. I need to know these numbers.
While we're talking about it, I'm going to look it up because I do have a calculator on my phone.
Right.
But I think that is, we don't do the math. If we don't do the research, and I think that's a miss on our part.
People don't do what you're about to do.
Yes.
Which we do this a lot. Because they're just thinking in the moment. And in the moment can cause you to make different decisions than thinking long-term strategy.
So $120,000 invested at 12%.
Today.
Yes, invested at 12%, no other deposits, and over 10 years, it doubles, okay?
Okay.
Now, if we're talking 20 years.
That's highly probable.
Oh.
It's highly probable.
Oh my goodness, Chris. She not ready. That person ain't ready for this.
How much is it?
$1.1 million.
That's $1 million gain.
In 20 years at 12% interest. So what we're talking, this is so important.
Wow.
That's
a good timely example, right?
This is so important. It's like, I know times are uncertain. I know that you may not know exactly what to do with the funds that you have. Seek professional help with these decisions and leave the money alone. Leave the money alone because this was $1 million decision.
Now, I know in this instance, like, I think she chose to go and invest in property. Mm-hmm. But unless that property becomes worth
$1 million
in 20 years, then I don't think that was the right choice. But hey, it's not my money. I couldn't say don't do this.
Yeah.
But
and that's I will, hand it to I'm gonna call him my big brother Dave Ramsey. Because the reason why I use this calculator so much in these decisions is because Dave Ramsey would add up the 39 cents that it cost to supersize a meal in 1992. And over time, what it's going to grow to. He is adding up the cost of literally every tiny decision made and seeing, is it worth it? I don't go to that level of detail, but I do think that when we're talking about some of this stuff, we don't calculate the cost.
We don't. What the Bible say?
Count the cost.
Exactly.
Count the cost.
Where he who buildeth and doesn't count the cost, he may not be able to finish.
Yes. And so I think about, the impact of our actions can be very long-term.
Right.
Can be very long-term.
This is so I think it's time for Make It Worth It.
Okay.
Because this is just on my mind. And it has nothing to do with like what you choose to do from a strategy perspective, but it has everything to do with calming your nerves, because it's a lot of stuff that can get you unnerved. And when you're unnerved, I think we can make unpredictable decisions. And so I would just say in this time of uncertainty, because the market is doing what it's doing and, we have the administration making decisions that, people agree with and people don't agree with. And I think you got to just calm your nerves at this time and just settle yourself and don't make any impromptu decisions without just sleeping on things. Like we won't make any major purchases without sleeping on it and discussing it. Like, I'm not worried about missing out on a deal. I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with making the decision that I'm committing to. And so I think if you do that, that will put you in a much better situation so that when you do decide to act or do something, you'll be coming from a place where you've vetted it out, you've thought it through, you have peace about it, and you can move forward.
That's so good because, and we sleep on decisions that are not major. So for instance, we went, to the mall yesterday, and when I was about to buy these pair of pants, the woman said, are you a card member? And I said, no. And she said, well, the 40% off doesn't apply. I said,
like, what?
Go ahead, girl. I don't need them pants. I'm not paying regular price for that.
Right.
And it was already above what I would spend on a pair of pants at the regular price. And so I was like, no, I'm fine. I don't need them that bad. And then she said, you didn't hear from me, but it'll go on sale for everybody tomorrow. I said, okay, I can come back.
Boom.
And you asked me today, was I gonna go back? And I said, well, I slept on it. Like, I can if I want to, but I'm not going today. Right. I'm not going today. And so it's not as important as it probably felt yesterday. So not only sleep on it, but when you think about all the decisions that you're making, really, are they worth it? My make it worth it is in uncertain times like those that, the war, and we've got, rising gas prices and lots of other things are changing right now. You need an emergency fund. Yeah. You need an emergency fund. So I know we've been talking about your retirement and the volatility of what is invested long term, but in the short term, you need an emergency fund. And so if ever there were a time to ensure that you cut back, you reduce expenses, you shift things, now is it to make sure that you have an emergency fund. And I'm not talking about a credit card, because a credit card is not an emergency fund.
That's debt.
It is debt. It is using somebody else's money. You need cold hard cash. And so I would invest as well in an emergency fund.
That's good. That's good. As you were talking, I was thinking, like, you're not buying those pants. Mm-hmm. That may seem like something small. Mm-hmm. Because we were at the mall at the same time. I tried on some shoes. I was like, ooh, I like these shoes. But then I thought I had some shoes that same exact color. It was a different brand, but I was like, it's the same concept. I was like, well, let me sleep on it. So I had them hold the shoes, and I don't know if I'm gonna go back and get them.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's in those little moments that you're exercising that muscle. Mm-hmm. And as you exercise that muscle, you build that muscle.
Of control and discipline.
Yes, because if you do it in these little instances and you've done it over time, you get stronger. Mm-hmm. So then you can do that with something that is bigger.
Yeah.
And you do that a few more times and you do it with something that's bigger. So when you do make the decision, you've already exercised that muscle, and now it doesn't feel quite as difficult because you've been already working it out.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. If you never exercise your discipline muscle, you won't have any, or your willpower muscle. If you never say no to stuff, you won't know how it feels. Period.
This was good. And I hope people just take a moment and sit in this and just say, where am I at? Locate where you are and what you need to do to find a comfort level for yourself. Because I told one of our daughters this. I said, look, this moment in your life is just a moment. Mm-hmm. It is not eternity. It is not the rest of your life. It is just a moment in time. And if we can look at something just as a moment, this moment will pass.
It sure will.
Things will change.
That's right.
Like, we're in this moment with this war. I hope things just don't go completely off the rails.
Yeah.
But this moment will pass. And that's why we cite all of those previous examples, because those moments were, oh man, this was the biggest thing. Those moments have passed.
And I think keeping that perspective, you protect your peace. If it means, so we did say in the very beginning, sure, you need to be aware of what's going on in the world and that kind of thing, and watch the news if you need to. But I also think the balance of that is, how much news do you watch?
Right.
And
not like your mama.
Oh, all day. All day.
All right, not like turn it on and leave it on.
Grandma, grandpa, so many grandma and grandpas spend the entire day watching TV.
When they play it, it's the same thing on repeat.
I'm like, Mommy, didn't you hear that 3 hours ago?
Or didn't they say this the last segment?
Even local news just repeats itself. The evening repeat. Local news repeats itself. And so just be careful about, what you're intaking, even on social media, even in different outlets, because I do think that being informed and then, getting into fear are two different things, right? And so I do think that we have to protect our peace and our mindset, because you can't make good decisions if you are emotional about it. And the news can get us emotional. Right. So this was good. I
enjoyed this conversation.
I'm glad. So this hopefully will motivate some folks to find some steadiness in these uncertain times. And so.
Until next time, folks.
We're out.
We're out. Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all of your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up to receive our free guide, The 7 Reasons Your Money Relationship Isn't Working with Your Partner, on ForBetterandWorth.com.
Until next time, we're out of here.